In this video, we will learn about Deques in C++. Like the other containers we learned about, they are a part of C++'s STL, Standard Template Library. For those of you familiar with the regular queue data structure in programming, a queue functions as a line at a store, first in, first out. The first person that gets online is the first person helped by the cashier. New people that get on the line go to the back of the line, so insertion is done at the end of a queue. A Deque is a double-ended queue. With Deques, both insertion and deletion of elements can be done at either end, the front or the back. To begin working with Deques in C++, we need to include the Deque header file at the top of the program. Let's start out by creating a Deque of integers named example. We can add an element to the back of the Deque using the pushback function. For example, let's use the pushback function and pass in a value of 5 to add 5 at the rear of our Deque. The pushFront function can be used to add an element to the front of the Deque. For example, let's push the elements 10 and 100 onto the front of the Deque using the pushFront function. To iterate through the items in our Deque, we can create an iterator. Let's create an iterator to iterate over a Deque of ints named it. Then we will have a for loop that starts at it equals example.begin, runs while it is not equal to example.end, and increments it by 1 each iteration. Inside of the for loop, we will print out the value in the Deque that it is pointing to for that iteration, and then a new line. When we run the code, notice that the elements 100, 10, and 5 were output to the console. This ordering makes sense since we pushed 5 to the back of the Deque, then pushed 10 onto the front of the Deque, and then 100 onto the front. Let's look at some of the other functions we can use when working with Deques. The size function allows us to check how many elements our Deque is currently storing. For example, we can output the size of the Deque to the console. Using the front function, we'll return the element at the front of the Deque. In a similar fashion, the back function will return the element at the rear of the Deque. We can also use the at function to retrieve the element at a particular index. For example, passing in an index of 1 will retrieve the second element in our Deque. When we run the code, notice that the size is 3, the front element is 100, the back element is 5, and the element at index 1, the second element in the Deque, since indexing starts at 0, is 10.